Greetings, War Thunderers. This is Longshot with a review of patch 1.59, insofar as it affects the aircraft side of the game. At least I'll be bringing you a review just as soon as the update's downloaded. And while it's doing this, I'm sure a few of you occasionally get that dreaded 0 bytes per second download speed, as well as seeing the launcher spam hundreds of internet connections. Well, here's how I've worked around those problems. Just click this button. Oh, no wait, that's the graphics options. It's the spanner button, yes. And see how I've unticked all those options there. With those off, the launcher is a much better citizen on my PC, and my download speed is nice and fast. So that's enough of the launcher. Let's see what the game looks like now. Yes, a brand new hangar, and this is by far the best hangar I have seen in this game. A mechanic's left his bits and bobs on the ground there. There's miscellaneous stuff lying around, plenty of battered looking buildings. It looks much more authentic to me. For those of you who like tanks, they have their very own hangar now as well, completely separate to planes, and although you can't see it here, there's even a hangar, or rather a dock area, hidden in this patch, and that can only mean one thing. Ships are indeed on the way, and might even arrive sometime this year. Now, every major patch Gaijin releases has new vehicles, and this is no exception. But that's not why I decided to make this review video. If all we had were new planes, it wouldn't greatly interest me. Though among the planes that arrived in this patch are two that I do intend to check out as soon as possible. The Ki-61-2 that you're looking at here, and the new N1K2JA. I've taken both for quick test flights. The Ki-61 feels like an energy fighter. It's not a great turner, so I do hope it's fast enough to compete at its BR of 4.7. The N1K2, however, feels amazing. I'm sure there'll be an outcry about it being a UFO. I'm not qualified to say whether it is or isn't, but all I can say is that it seems very, very good. Anyway, the reason I'm creating this video is that this patch contains a bunch of changes that will affect the gameplay in each of the three modes, mostly arcade, to a lesser extent RB, and then simulator. I'll start with arcade. Firstly, look at this from the patch notes. Apart from the earliest tier, spawn points are being moved back. For battle rating 6.3 and above, they've gone from 14,000 metres apart to 22,000 metres in ground strike and out to 19,000 metres in domination, and that's considerable. One of, not just mine, but other people as well, our primary objections to higher tier gameplay in arcade was that powerful late and post-war aircraft were essentially fighting on the same sized maps as the pre-war planes were, and that made for claustrophobic and chaotic battles where spawn camping became inevitable, especially with jets, and there was just no room to manoeuvre or climb or position your plane. And Gaijin have at last addressed this problem, and this alone should drastically improve the quality of the gameplay. For bombers, the targets are spread out more, there's something of strategic value to bomb in frontline missions, which is good, AAA accuracy has decreased. All these things are good changes in my opinion. And then there's changes to domination maps. The old Mozdok map has returned. Yes, each side now has its own airfield to defend instead of both airfields being neutral. This old version of the map often gave rise to intense and hard-fought battles, and it is hugely satisfying to see it return. And not only that, among several new domination maps is the Bulge or Ardennes map, and it has what looks like an identical layout to Mozdok. Yes, Gaijin have not only listened to the community's long-standing cries for the old Mozdok to be restored to its former glory, they've given us a cool winter clone of it as well. And of the other maps, Eastern Europe looks like the Mozdok that was replaced. I've got two neutral airfields here, though one is a little closer than the other. I do wish they were a bit further apart from each other though. And then they've introduced Finland. One airstrip, and there it is. Yes, this map is a recipe for complete and utter chaos. For later model planes, this map would be absurd and not worth playing, but for biplanes it would probably be quite enjoyable, as the Krimsk domination map is for that tier, so let's hope they've just restricted it to tier 1. Okay, so that's arcade. How about RB? The main change here is the introduction of more air spawns, and here they are. The only question is what constitutes an interceptor or an air defense fighter, and so on. Well, let's take a look at the research tree. Notice the label under the plane's name in gold. Fighter, all of these are labelled as fighter. That means they have a ground spawn, same as before, but look at that. The 190A8 is an interceptor fighter. It will get an air spawn. 109G is a fighter. The D-Series Focke-Wulf 190s are fighters. Just checking to make sure. The TAs, though, they're interceptors. They also get that air spawn. Okay, down these here, these are all jet fighters. They'll, just the same as fighters, have a ground spawn. Moving up this tree, there we go, air defense fighter. It gets an even higher air spawn. And so on and so forth. You get the picture. So each plane has each nation has some planes that get that air spawn, and many that do not. Let's have a look at America, for example. Going down this thing, the A-36 is an attacker. It'll get a 1,000-meter air spawn. Same with all these planes. I'm not sure what the dive bombers get. Have to wait and see with those. PBJs get a 1,000-meter air spawn, and so on. These are obviously heavy long-range bombers. They will get the 4,000-meter air spawn. And that could be a bit of a concern. What happens when they just start climbing and you simply cannot reach them before the end of the game? Could be a bit of a problem. All these are just fighters. They won't get any particular air spawn. Here we go. There's an interceptor for America. The F-82 will be nice and high. The P-51s will not. Neither will the later P-38s. They're just fighters. Let's keep moving on. The P-47 gets a 1,000-meter spawn. P-51 does not, and so on and so forth. I'll just check the P-38s here. Yes, they get an air spawn as well. So some of these planes are going to get a distinct advantage, and they'll be much better and much more popular, I imagine, in this mode. You've got to remember that this is all experimental at the moment. I'd say the classifications of the planes is likely to change, and I'll also say there's going to be a certain imbalance between some nations and others, having better planes with a higher air spawn. They're working on it. I'd say there's a work in progress, and things will be sorted out as they go. Hopefully imbalances won't stay there for too long. Yeah, the only thing I'm concerned about are the heavy bombers. The last thing we want is for them just to climb up to space and be unreachable by fighters, or even impossible to find. I'm also not sure that putting the attacker spawn right behind the airfield is a good idea. Imagine you're the type of person who likes team killing. How tempting is that line of fighters down that airfield right in front of you? How easy would it be to simply drop down there and strafe that runway? I would hate to spawn on the airfield and have some imbecile dive on me like this. And there's no reason why Gaijin couldn't just move those air spawns off to a side and take away that temptation for griefers to behave in this way. Lastly, there's a bunch of new enduring confrontation maps in which airfields now require more bombs to destroy. Now right now this just affects Simulator. Enduring confrontation still isn't generally available for RB. As you can see, there's only Simulator events here. I've been waiting and waiting for a chance to play 32 vs 32 enduring I'll just say EC, 32 vs 32 EC in realistic. I would love to cover it in a video, but it's just not there. I can't play it. And I know the Simulator folk aren't happy either. Their preferred EC mode is historical, plus the option of having the regular random queue. They had that back in December and queues for both were full. But what have they had for months on end now, since then? Battle rating based EC, which for Sim is seriously flawed with its captured planes, and they haven't had the random battle queue at all. And it's good that they made airfields harder to destroy, but the problem was that airfields no longer respawn in EC, which means that the battles which were intended to last for hours can now be finished quite quickly if a team spams heavy bombers and suicides them at the airfields. Yes, the old bomber spam that was the scourge of arcade back in 2014 has now reappeared in Simulator Enduring Confrontation, and who would have guessed that that had happened? I don't know whether beefing up the airfields will improve things or solve the problem, but the fact is that Gaijin does not appear to be listening to the Sim community's calls for historical EC and the return of the random battle queue. Nor have they allowed the RB community to play EC, despite considerable interest in the mode. If anyone from Gaijin is watching this, I respectfully ask, please listen to your players, give us access to the maps that we'd like to play. If you do this, I'm 100% certain you'll get a lot more people playing the game. It's really in your interest to do this. Okay, to finish off, for 2 months only, Gaijin have reduced the RP needed to unlock several planes. They published a full list of the changes on the forum, and I've distilled it here to the most interesting planes. It looks to me like they want to get a lot more people flying low-level jets. Keep in mind that unlocking is of course only half the story. The jets still need to be spaded, and that of course is just as painful as ever. But for me personally, I no longer have an excuse not to have a jet in my lineup. So it's time I got to work and unlocked these things while the price is low. Overall, I think this has the makings of a fairly good patch. I really like the fact that Gaijin are making some sensible gameplay related changes instead of just introducing shiny new vehicles. However, a few issues are appearing on the forums. Obviously the bomber spam in RB and probably SB is one of them. Another is that planes across the board seem able to tank a lot more damage now, and that's a concern. Concrete damage models are simply not enjoyable, and it would be a shame to see the game swing back in that direction. And lastly, many BF-109s seem to overheat a lot more quickly now when using WEP. Has this been offset by increased power from the WEP? I don't know. All I can say is that it needs testing. What do you think of the new patch? Please leave a comment and let me know. And until my next vid, good hunting, and I will be seeing you in the skies.